whatever for this video. But hey, everybody, so my name is La Precious, and welcome to my YouTube channel known as Let's Talk with La Precious. So today I'm going to be talking to you guys about how to find your crown Orisha or how to find your Ori. So a lot of people online and social media have been, interested in becoming initiated into Santeria or Lucumi. And a lot of people don't know the steps, or a lot of people are being told different things by Babalaos or Yanifas on how to find your crown Orisha and how you need to be initiated to find that out, or how you need to make the saint or make Orisha or get a crowning ceremony done and so on and so forth. And I want to say that, hey, beautiful magic, I have not seen you in such a long time. I was actually thinking about you a while ago and was wondering if you still watch my channel or not. But I'm happy to see you though. Okay, so how are you, by the way? Okay, back. So a lot of people, girl, I've been working. Okay, I get what you're saying. I've been working and everything too, but I'm happy to see you though. I'm happy to see you. So let's first start out with Santeria. I'm doing well, and you? I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Just going through the changes and motions and stuff. But that's life. But things are going really good. So let's first get started with Lucumi Santeria. So I'm sure a lot of you know from watching my channel that I practice Lucumi and Santeria. So Santeria or Lucumi is pretty much an Afro-Cuban religion. No, you don't have to be Cuban to practice this religion, because I myself am an American, but I do have Cuban ancestors, so maybe that might not be a good example, but whatever. You do not have to be Cuban in order to practice Lucumi or Santeria, but you do need to be chosen by the Orishas in order for them to work for you. So, Lucumi and Santeria is pretty much an Afro Cuban religion that came over to Cuba and other neighboring Caribbean islands like Puerto Rico and Haiti from the Yoruba and Nigerian slaves during the transatlantic slave trade. The reason why it is called Santeria is because the name Santeria means the way of the saints. So when the slaves came over to the islands, they pretty much practiced Ifa, which is where the Orishas came from. The Orishas are pretty much humanistic entities or humanistic spirits that were once real people before they transitioned and became Orishas, or spirits that have many different characteristics. Like you have Yemaya, who is the mother of the seven seas. You have Shango, who is known as the god or the king of thunder. You have Oya, who's also known as Oyayansa, who is the Orisha of the cemeteries and of the winds and ancestors. Then you have Obatala, who is the equivalent of Jesus, who is the Orisha of the high hills and the high mountains. Then you have the lovely Oshun, who is known as the Orisha of the rivers of sweetness and gladness and happiness and prosperity. So that is where they came from. The Orishas came from the Yoruban Nigerians. And so when they brought their religion to the islands, they were able to practice them in freedom to an extent. But once the Spanish conquistadors or the Spanish slave owners started seeing how powerful the slaves were becoming, or how powerful their religion was due to the Orishas' different manifestations and powers, they started clamping down on them. You can't practice your religion as openly anymore. You can't go to these places in nature to worship anymore. There's even instances of them chopping down ceiba trees in the Santeria faith, or in the Lucumi faith. The ceiba tree is one of the sacred trees in Santeria. So they did a lot of things to kind of give them hints, y'all need to cut it out. It's time to be Catholic. We're Catholic. You're supposed to be our slaves or our children. So you need to start looking and acting like us and stop doing all this other stuff. And in all honesty, it was the slave owners being jealous, because I'm gonna be honest with y'all, when it comes to racism or colorism, whether it was back then or even now, I've always said that racism and colorism is a another term for jealousy, because the definition of being racist or colorist is a person who believes that their color or race is superior to the other. But when you look at a lot of instances between black people and people of European descent in the past and even now, a lot of this stuff just stems from jealousy. Because I mean, back then with the slaves, when it came to the religions and whatnot, the slave masters, they saw how powerful this stuff was. But due to them feeling kind of threatened, well, oh, they might try to figure out a way to overthrow us and overpower us, which they did in Haiti, because that's the real reason why the Haitians became free from the French and became the first free black nation in the Western Hemisphere because voodoo helped them out. So, the slave masters, they was kind of seeing, how the slaves was getting certain stuff or whatever due to their gods, and that's why they shut it down. But when you see instances like that, and even the Black Wall Street situation in Oklahoma, and even other instances, a lot of these European blooded people, they were jealous of black people, and they knew that what we had and what we were doing and what we were capable of was powerful. And they even knew that our stuff was going to be a whole lot more powerful than them. So that's why you even saw back then and even now a lot of clamping down on African stuff or African descendant stuff or even things on black people. We even saw it in the news, in recent years of how black people have moved into, predominantly white neighborhoods and getting the police called on them for drinking water in their yard or selling water at yard sales or getting the police called on them for walking dogs in the dog park. A lot of this stuff is just reminiscent of the past, and even though it's bad that it's still happening, even today, that that's just letting us know that black people we still got it. We must really got something going on, or must really be amazing and powerful for people to even still have those sentiments today that they had over 100 years ago. So that's just the observation that I have. But the reason why Santeria is called Santeria or the Way of the Saints is because the Spanish conquistadors or the Spanish slave owners, they wanted the slaves to be like them and, to take away their power and authority and so on and so forth. So they made them become Catholic. But the slaves knew in their mind, like, okay, we need to preserve our culture, we need to preserve our religion, and we want our religion to really thrive and to continue on for generations to come. So what they started doing, that they started practicing Catholicism and believing in the Catholic saints, but they synchronized the Orishas with the Catholic saints, which is why when you look at the seven African powers, bath mixes and the seven African powers, candles, you see the white saints like Nino de Atocha for Ilegua, Saint Barbara for Shango, Nuestra Señora de la Caridad de Cobre for Oshun, and so on and so forth. And the reason that's so is because the slaves had to disguise the Orishas behind Catholic saints in order for them to preserve their religion. So that's why it's called Santeria or the Way of the Saints, because they had to synchronize the African spirits with the Catholic saints. So that's the definition. Now, Lucumi is a Yoruban term which means friend of mine because in the Yoruban tradition and in the Yoruban culture, there is a sense of family and togetherness. And when you are a member of the Santeria religion or the Lucumi religion, you are seen as a friend or like as a brother or as a sister. You know, it's all about family. So that's where that term comes from. So moving along from that, there has been like a peaked interest in Santeria or Lucumi for a very long time, ever since the pandemic, because a lot of people have started, discovering who they are, discovering where their roots lie, what their true passion is, and what their true destiny is. And fortunately, Santeria has been able to spark this positive change and innovation and renaissance in a way in people, especially Black people. So, by saying that, I say this. You have a lot of people who have discovered their roots in Santeria because a lot of people fail to realize that when it comes to these African traditional religions, they are supposed to be influenced by your ancestors because in the Santeria or Lucumi faith, we call our ancestors Egun or Egunguns or Los Egunes in Spanish because you're not supposed to touch the Orishas before you communicate with your ancestors. Your ancestors are supposed to guide and tell you whether the Orisha path is for you or not. And that is why, especially in the Espiritismo religion, why misas are important. Misas are pretty much like masses, like they have in the Catholic Church, but a mass with your ancestors, or like a misa, is pretty much where you have like a table laid out with a cross and glasses of water to represent the different courts of the spirits or different ancestors. It has the four elements of life, which is earth, wind, fire, and water. And you pretty much have a bell and a couple candles, whatever the occasion calls for. And you pretty much call on your ancestors or the spirits of your family. And as they're coming up in the misa or in the mass, they're supposed to be telling you, the Orisha tradition is your path, or the Loa or the Asogwe, which is a Haitian voodoo tradition, is your path, or the Cha Cha lineage in 21 divisions of Dominican voodoo is your path, or Spiritismo, or Palo Mayombe, or Candomblé, or so on and so forth is your path. So a lot of times when people enter into the religion of Santeria or Lucumi, and even with African Americans, because I've noticed a lot of African Americans, if they don't want to touch the voodoo or voodoo traditions, or even the Santeria or Ifa or Lucumi faith, they like to stick to hoodoo. And I want to say that hoodoo is like the black version of Espiritismo, because hoodoo the is pretty much the same thing as Espiritismo, with the white table, the white candle, the glass of water, pictures of ancestors, and plants and food offerings, and so on and so forth. But with the African American side of, with the spiritism, with hoodoo, it seems to align more with the church that we grew up with. Like if we grew up in the Kojic Church, the Baptist Church, dealing with the Masons, and even with the Presbyterian church or with the Pentecostal church. I've noticed a lot of African Americans, if they don't want to stray too far away from African American traditions and stuff, they'll tend to stick with hoodoo. And hoodoo, in all honesty, is a remnant of Christianity, Ifa, and voodoo, because when you look at the traditions and the rites, and even the altar setups and stuff, and even with the root work and whatnot in hoodoo, is very reminiscent of Santeria and the altar setup and the offerings and so on and so forth. And same thing goes with voodoo. So that's one side of spiritism that I've noticed with African Americans. And then with Latinos or with Hispanics, you have Espiritismo. And there are different types of Espiritismo. Egyptian famous. Hey, Egyptian famous. There are different types of Espiritismo, because you have the Puerto Rican version, which is, I believe, called the Mesa Blanca. Then you have the Cuban version, the Venezuelan version, and so on and so forth. Because I want to say, if you are for African Americans, like this is how like we start off. I've noticed that a lot of African Americans tend to start with crystals and tarot, and then they go into hoodoo, which is spiritism. But then with Latinos, and I'm not saying that this is the way to go for each group, because African Americans do go into the Ifa tradition, Santeria, Palo, Isheshe straight out, and don't even go the hoodoo route. That's just the way a lot of us, or some of us, are made up. It's all about what is leading you, guiding you, so on and so forth. With Latinos, I've noticed before they get their start in Santeria or in Ifa, and I don't really see too many Latinos in Isheshe. I tend to see a lot of African Americans in Isheshe, and a lot of Latinos in Palo or Santeria or Espiritismo, or even in, what's another one, Candomblé. And even with voodoo, I've noticed that with Latinos and Haitian voodoo, it tends to be like the Dominicans, like the Dominicans or Puerto Ricans, especially Puerto Ricans who practice like Sanse, because Sanse is pretty much a mix of all the African traditional religions in the Caribbean, like Haitian voodoo, 21 divisions, Santeria, and Palo, and Ubanda and so on and so forth. And then you have Dominicans with Dominican voodoo who, dibble and dabble and even get initiated in Haitian voodoo because of the similarities. And I mean, Dominican Republic and Haiti are like on the same island, the Hispaniola. It's just split in half. You got Haiti over here and the DR right here. So not much of a difference. There is a difference, but not all that much. So that's pretty much the route and the start that people go before they get into Santeria or Ifa. And if not, they just go straight in it, whatever floats your boat. Because I myself, I didn't do hoodoo. I didn't really touch on hoodoo until after I got into Santeria and Haitian voodoo. And I'm going to be honest, some people, may disagree with this, whatever floats your boat or whatever works. Hoodoo is just not strong enough for me. I've done hoodoo workings and rituals and baths and stuff, and it just don't hit for me. The Haitian stuff, the Dominican stuff, and the Santeria stuff works better for me, and that's just, my prerogative. For some black people, hoodoo tends to work better, and for some black people, it don't. I'm just a black person that it just doesn't work that well or work that strong enough on. So moving along from that, now let's get to your Ori. So now that I've said that, I say this. A lot of people who have tapped into Santeria, since the pandemic and this, spiritual revelation that we've had, a lot of people have become initiated in Santeria. I myself am half initiated in Santeria. I'm not fully initiated because I've only received my elekes and my warriors. So in our tradition, in the Lucumi or Santeria faith, we are known as Avarishas. Now, there are different terms, and a lot of people say they don't care about the terms or whatever with Santeria, and it's really disrespectful because how can you say you believe in something but don't respect the categories and the terms and the rights and legacy and traditions and stuff that it falls under? Because if you are a believer of Santeria or Lucumi, or Ifa and you don't believe in the terms of Aleo and Abarisha and Iyawo and stuff, you are not a real believer to me because there is no way you can practice Santeria or Lukumi and not know what these terms are. So I say that to say this. When you start in Santeria, you're supposed to first have a conversation with your ancestors. If you don't know how to do a ancestor altar or if you don't know how to do a misa, then it's best to get a reading. I know some people are against doing readings and divinations when it comes to being a part of a religion, but it's vital. That's why they're there to tell you where to go. A reading is pretty much your guide or your spiritual map. So, if you don't know how to do an altar or a misa, get a reading from a well respected priest, like a Babalao, who is a high priest in Ifa, that can connect you to the Orishas because they receive the messages from the Orisha known as Orumila. And Orumila is the Orisha of divination or the diviner. He's the one that gives you the passages or the way of life or the way of your destiny. Iyanifas, who are female high priests in Ifa, they do the same thing. One thing I want to say is that a lot of people in Ifa, they're not very vocal about women being high priests or diviners in Ifa, and some of them make it seem like women aren't supposed to do that or don't do that, when in actuality that's not true. Some of you may not know that a lot of the female Orishas like Oshun and Yemaya are diviners within themselves in their different paths when they were married to different Orishas that had that gift of divining. They learned that from them. So if you are a child of Yemaya or a child of Oshun, for example, you probably have that gift of being a seer or a clairvoyant or having a third eye because Yemaya and Oshun, they have that gift as well. So don't let nobody tell you that women can't be seers or clairvoyants or diviners in Ifa because the female Orishas, they had the gift too. So don't believe in that. So, um, okay, where was I? Okay, getting readings. When you get a reading from a Babalao or an Yanifa, it's best to get an Ifa reading. They pretty much let you know what a Rumila has to say for you, But other Orishas that want to help you or have messages for you will pop up as well. That's where you get your guidance from. That's where you get the okay. This is the religion for me, the path. This is where you get the okay. It's time for me to get my lekes. It's time for me to get my warriors, or it's time for me to be crowned. Now, when I say getting crowned, a lot of people talk about this in Santeria or in Lucumi and how important it is to be crowned or how important it is to go through your Ori ceremony. Now, some people like to say that you cannot know who your Orisha parents are unless you have this Ori or crowning ceremony done. And some people say that you cannot even know who your crown is without having your Ori ceremony or your Osha or your Santo ceremony. I'm here to let y'all know that's a lie and it's not true. The reason why I say that that is a lie and it's not true because why would you want to pay tons of money on a ceremony? And this is a 7 day ceremony that costs thousands of dollars. Why would you want to pay all of this money in a ceremony to have a ceremony done to an Orisha that you don't know, don't have a relationship with, and really don't know how to connect to? Because when it comes to your Ori or your crown Orisha, your Ori and your crown Orisha is the Orisha that crowns your head or that's already on your head. And some Iyas and Babas, they don't even tell y'all that before you even find out what your Ori is or who your Ori is. You already have an Ori, which is Obatala. Olodumare in our religion is seen as God. He is the creator of all things. And Olodumare is more so of the messenger and the one that breathes life and gives life into the humans or the Orishas. Therefore, Obatala crowns everybody's head. So before you even get into the religion or get into the Orishas real good, you already have an Ori, and your Ori is Obatala, or your crown Orisha is Obatala. He is the start, he is the beginning. So when you get into Obatala, because even when you look at the pantheon, Olodumare is up here, Obatala is right here, and Elegua is right here. The reason why Elegua is underneath Obatala is because he's the gatekeeper and the road opener to all the other Orishas in the path. So that's how that order and that structure goes. Now, with your Ori or who your crown Orisha is, since Obatala is above all of the Orishas except Olodumare, he crowns everybody's head already. So before you get an Ifa reading done, before you do an Osha or a Ori ceremony or a Santo ceremony, when I say Ori, Santo, Osha, that's the same thing. Before you get that ceremony, you already have an Orisha on your head who is Obatala. So there you go. But another thing I want to say is that it you can find out who crowns your head or who your Ori is in an Ifa reading, the Iya or the Babalao, and not even just an Iya or Babalao, because a lot of people in different African traditional religions work with the Orishas. Like you have Dominicans with 21 divisions that serve the Orishas and are well aware of the Orishas and that work with the Orishas. You have people in Haitian voodoo, because I found out who my Orisha was in Haitian voodoo as opposed to Ifa, because Haitian voodoo was introduced to me first before Ifa was. Well, I actually was introduced to Ifa through Haitian voodoo. So that's how I got started in the path. So you can go, as long as these people are respectable priests and they've gone through the rites and they do things the right way according to the belief systems and the traditions. You can find out who's your crown Orisha, who's your head Orisha in a reading before you even have the ceremony done. So when it comes to your crown Orisha or who your head Orisha is or your Ori, they're pretty much your mother or your father. The reason why I say your mother or your father is because everybody has a mother Orisha or a father Orisha, especially if you're in the tradition of Lucumi or Santeria. So your mother or your father may crown your head or may be your head, and your mother or your father may guard your feet. So you have an Orisha who crowns your head, which means they give you enlightenment, they give you protection, they give you authority, they give you peace, and they give you power, but they also give you direction. Because the main reason why it's so important in African traditions to protect your head and to guard your head is because your life and your life source and your light comes from your head. Your third eye is in between your two eyes, which is like your third eye, because you have visual eyes that see earthly things, but you have a spiritual eye that sees spiritual things. So you have that balance of being able to see the earthly things and the spiritual things. The reason why it's important to protect your ori or to protect your crown is because people can throw evil eyes at you, throw bad energy at you, throw blockages at you, and throw many different things at you that can kind of throw you off or take you off course, because the mind is a terrible thing to waste, but the mind is also a powerful thing to use. Because that's why you have to be careful when people speak things over you, when they pray things over you, and when they just speak things over you that are not so. Because when people have a way of words and an interesting way of speaking and divining and doing things, they can play with your head, they can play with your ori, and they can play with your mindset where you can be a headstrong person, confident, believing in yourself and knowing who you are, to now you're confused and you're questioning yourself because you've allowed someone's deviances and deception in your head and in your mind to throw you off course. That's why a lot of people in the African traditional religions wear head wraps. They wear different head coverings that have been anointed and blessed in order for their crown to be protected, because of the importance of protecting your crown and protecting your mind. And another thing I want to say is that, people can do whatever they want to do by telling people who crowns their head and by telling people who is their Ori. I kind of slip and say who crowns me every now and then, but a lot of times I don't like to broadcast who my Ori or who my crown Orisha is, because people can work your spirits off your head. People can work your spirits off of your mind, and they can entice your spirits off your head where they won't even deal with you anymore. Or people can actually put blockages between you and your spirits, because in spirituality, you have a lot of people that are very jealous and demonic and devious and whatnot. And a lot of people will even be jealous of you that Yemaya favors you, or God, or I got you favors you, or that Olakun favors you, or that Obatala or Elegwa. Some of the popular Orishas have favor on you. And you have to be careful that some people will make you feel as though if you're not as pretty as Oshun, or as beautiful as Yemaya, or not as funny or playful as Elegwa, that they wouldn't like you or wouldn't love you. That's a lie before God and the Orishas, because the Orishas choose whomever they want to work with, not people. Because a lot of these diviners and priests and priestesses, they get so high and minded that they start thinking that they're, God, or they're the Orishas and whatnot, and try to tell people who their Orisha should be or could be or wouldn't be or whatever, that they just miss the whole point of being a divider or a godparent or a guide, because they're putting their own little mix and spin on what religion and spirituality is. But no, a Babalawo and a Yanifa, they're not supposed to tell you who your Orisha is based on their own perceptions and opinions of you. They're supposed to be the mouthpiece of the Orishas, letting you know who covers you and who governs you. So, with your Ori, it's not good to always broadcast and tell people that Yemaya crowns me, or Oshun crowns me, or Batala crowns me, because people can do workings and spells that can dance your Orishas off your head and make them not want to deal with you. And people can actually throw blockages and put a wall between you and your spirits where they won't be able to get to you. So, with your Ori or with your crown Orisha, you can find out who that is in a reading. If you want to know who crowns your head, if you want to know Oshun crowns your head, or Abatala Yemaya, you can find those things out in a reading by a Babalao or Yanifa, or even by a Hugan or Mambo in Haitian Voodoo, who are priestesses within their own right. They do work with the Orishas from time to time. And you may be able to find this out through a brujo or bruja or a mambosa in 21 divisions, priests or priestess who work with the Orishas. But at the same time, I want to say, even though you can find out who is your crown Orisha or your head Orisha in these different religions, like 21 divisions and Haitian voodoo, make sure that these people are initiated in Santeria or Lucumi so that they can initiate you and guide you properly. Because just because these people work with the Orishas don't mean that they have a right to initiate you under the Orishas. Because you have a lot of mixing and mingling with the African traditional religions, which is a good thing, but you have to be careful because some of these people like to use that fact of them being a priest or priestess in 21 Divisions of Haitian Voodoo or even Palo as a right to initiate you under the Orishas, all because they're a priest. Just because somebody is a priest in one religion, whether that be Haitian Voodoo or 21 Divisions, doesn't mean they have the right to initiate you in Santeria because the initiations for 21 Divisions and Haitian Voodoo and Santeria are not the same. They're not carried out the same. They're not the same. So be mindful of that because you do have some priests and priestesses that will tell you, oh, I'm a mambo, I'm a hugan or brujo or bruja, and I can initiate you with this, under the orishas because, we're all the same and we work, blah, blah, blah. Don't believe that. If this person is not a babalao or a iyanifa, then they don't have that right under the Orishas to initiate you in the Orisha tradition because that causes a lot of confusion. It's not right, and they're really taking advantage of you and just trying to get your money. So the last thing that I'm going to deal with, and I hope I'm not confusing anybody because I always want to bring clarity to the religion. Now, the last thing I want to say is the ceremony. So when it comes to your Ori or your crown Orisha, the reason why I say is that the reason why I say you shouldn't just jump into doing the crowning ceremony or just jump into doing this ceremony is because your mother and father Orishas will not always be the same throughout your entire life. I myself have had many different Orishas crown my head and guard my feet throughout my life, and some of them were the same Orishas that jumped on and off, and some of them weren't. When it comes to your Ori or your crown Orisha, it really depends on the relationship that you have with this Orisha from working with them, where you are in life, or the simple fact that this Orisha just chooses to favor you or love you or guide you. So those are the three main reasons why an Orisha would crown your head or be upon your head or choose to guide and favor you or love you. Those are my experiences with the Orishas. Other people's might be different. That's why I said it's not good to really rush into doing the Osha ceremony or the Ori ceremony, the crowning ceremony, because you really need to develop and have a relationship with the Orishas before doing that. Because when it comes to your Ori, you really need to know how to work with your crown Orisha before even doing the ceremony. Because how are you going to know what this Orisha loves and likes and what they favor and what they adore and what they cherish, or if they don't even know you to do this big, expensive, immaculate ceremony. Because the Orishas need to know who you are. They need to have a relationship with you. They need to be familiar with you in order to crown you and to sit upon your head and be on your head like that. Another thing I want to mention about that is your Orishas can change. I know I said this before, but yeah, your crown Orisha can change. Just because Yemaya crowns your head right now, 10 months down the road, Elegwa can crown your head. Or Batala can crown your head. Even though he already does, he can choose to crown it again. Or Oshun can crown your head and she can bounce off. And then Obanani can crown your head. Now, one thing I want to say about Obanani can crown people's heads, but Oshun has to be your main crown in order for her to crown you. The reason why I say Oshun has to be your crown for you to have Obanani as your crown, because Obanani couldn't have children, I believe. She could not have kids. Oshun was able to have kids and Oya has kids. If you guys know the story or the Pataki of, the three sisters, Oya, Oshun, and Obanani, do you understand? But to those of you who don't, I'm going to explain it real quick. So, Obanani and Oya and Oshun are sisters. They were all married to the same man known as Shango. So, what ended up happening was Oshun and Oya were like the favorite wives or like the favorite lovers of Shango. But Obanani was Shango's legal wife. He actually was legally married to Obanani. When it came to Oshun and Oya, he was just like, they were like housewives pretty much. You know, the women that was just there to love him, to favor him, to sleep with him, and, just to appease him and everything. But Obanani had the ring and she had the paper. But then, well, I'm not gonna say because I know what I'm talking about. But Obanani, even though she was the wife and she was the caretaker and the housekeeper and really loved Shango and really cared for him, she wasn't getting that much attention from him. Oshun and Oya were his favorite. He always loved Oya due to her warrior-like spirit and her aggressiveness and her strength and power and authority. And he loved Oshun for her femininity and her prettiness and her sensuality and whatnot. And Obanani, she was pretty much like the goody two shoes wife, clean, cook, take care of her husband, and be pretty and be nice and make love to him whenever he wanted to, and woke up and did the same thing all over again. And she noticed, not like, well, why is he not clinging to me like this? Why is he not looking at me like that or whatever? So she thought about taking cues, from, his favorite wives or whatever. And she went to Oya, but Oshun had peeped her up on game. She was like, I'm not trying to tell you what to do. You're grown and everything, but be careful about that Oya because she don't have good intentions for you. And little did Obanani know she was right. Obanani, I want to say, even though she was the wife, I feel like Obanani was like the little sister in a way because she comes off as that. Because Oya comes off as like the older sister that knows it all and had it all and just had to have stuff her way. And Oshun, she was like, the pretty girl, the popular girl in school, the one that got all the boys and the men. But she was smart and she had a heart as well because a lot of people don't know this about Oshun, but Oshun is sentimental as well. Yes, when she laughs, that does mean that danger is abound, that she's about to attack somebody or whatever. But Oshun does have feelings because Oshun does know what it's like to be rejected. She knows what it's like to be disappointed, and she knows what it's like to having to settle and to put up with stuff when you don't want to. But other than that, Oshun is like the cool sister. She's the popular one that gets all the men and stuff. But she has a heart. Obanani, I just feel like she's a little sister that went to school and went to college and that did everything she was supposed to do, but she just still didn't fit in. But yeah. So Obanani, she went and asked Oya, like, Oya, what can I do to get Shango to be into me? He's all into you and Oshun, but I'm the wife, so how can I get him to love me like he loves y'all? Oya, with her jealous self, she told Obanani to cut off her ear and to put it in Shango's soup. And she said, Shango's gonna love you for this. If you do this, he is. And Obanani, being the woman she was and wanted to please her man, she cut her ear off and put it in his soup. And Shango was so disgusted he ran off and left and never came back. And Obanani was just so heartbroken and so distraught that she ran to her father Obatala and said, I don't want to live life anymore. I want to be confined to the cemetery with the spirits of the dead, and that's where I want to be for the rest of my life. And he saw her sorrow because Obanani was so distraught. She loved Shango so deeply that she felt like there was not going to be another man she could ever love like that. So she pretty much, went to the cemetery. Her father let her do that, and that's where she dwelled. Um, but when Obanani did that, Oshun really had a lot of love and respect for her. And they have a sweet relationship, but even in nature, they have a close bond. So if you guys don't know or not familiar with the naturistic aspects and the abilities of the Orishas, that when you go to Nigeria, there are places that have the names and the spirits and the energies of the Orishas, like the Oshun River. There's actually a river in Nigeria called the Oshun River, which is the river of the Orisha Oshun. But there's also a connecting river that is named the Oba River, which is representative of Obanani, because Obanani is a river spirit as well. And when you look at their rivers on the map, they kind of merge into each other, where Obanani is here and the Oshun River is here, where the Oba River and the Oshun River is here, and they merge into each other. So I think it's kind of sweet that even in nature they have that close bond and that sisterly love with each other. So when Obanani decided to put herself in the cemetery, Oshun would come by and see her. You know, she would come by and visit her. They would talk and they would bond, and she would go back to the house and everything. So her and Oshun, Obanani and Oshun, they have that sisterly love. They have each other's backs. So, and I believe that this is why when you have Obanani as your crown Orisha or as your Ori, you have to have Oshun, because Oshun is her sister and like her leg up, because she's the one that uplifts her. So you have to have Oshun as your Ori in order to have Obanani in order for that to work out. So that's how that works. Um, I want to say another thing I wanted to say about the terminologies, the reason why terms are, I know this video is getting lengthy, so I'm almost done. The reason why terms in the Lucumi and the Santeria faith are so important, excuse me, is because it's the way of order and structure. So if you are a person that's not initiated in Santeria or Lucumi, but you've been called by the Orishas or by your ancestors to start practicing with the Orishas, you are seen as a Aleo. And Aleo means an outsider or someone who's on the outside looking in. You're seen, or the better term for it is believer. So now you're just a believer, a practitioner, but you're not all the way in. When you receive your warriors or your elekes, you're now considered an Abarisha. An Avarisha is someone who is not fully initiated, but you have your foundation, your grounding, and your start in the faith. So you're in a lot deeper than someone who is an Aleo. And then you also have, you know, your Baba and your Iya, and then you have your there's a lot of terms. I don't remember all of them right now, but I should do a video on the terms. So it's important to really know those terms in the Orisha or Lukumi tradition, because they help you find out where you belong and where your start is, and you know how you should carry on in the faith. Now, when it comes to your Ori ceremony or your Osha ceremony, or pretty much preparing your crowning, you only need to get that done if it comes up in a reading or if your Orisha say so. The reason why I say that is because a lot of Babalawos and Yanifas nowadays, they only want people's money. And it's sad and it's almost kind of rare to find an honest Iya or an honest Babalawo that will guide you and help you the way that they're supposed to, and be honest and sincere and not gatekeep and swindle you out of your money just for you to get simple information that you can really get out of a book. So that's that. But in order for you to have your Ori ceremony done, or Osha, or Santo ceremony done, it really needs to come from the Orishas in a reading, because that ceremony is very long. It's a week long. You have to buy a lot of different foods, a lot of different things. A lot of people have to be paid. A lot of preparation goes into it, and you really need to be properly guided and properly shown the way before you get into that ceremony. And I hate how so many people get bullied into being initiated and get bullied into doing these ceremonies by other people in the faith, because they say that that's the way and that's how it's supposed to be done, and you can't serve the Orishas or be in a Lukumi or Orisha tradition unless you're initiated. And that's a lie, because if that was so, then why do you have terms like Aleo and Avarisha that pretty much are for people who are not all the way in the faith, all the way initiated? And I'm noticing that a lot of this stuff is coming from people that are jealous, because a lot of these people got bullied into being initiated, or they got hurt, or they got, you know, conditioned, or it was strongly ingrained in them to be initiated, just so the other person telling them that wouldn't feel bad. Because I hate to say it, but a lot of ATRs, it's a lot of hurt people scenarios going on. And yes, African traditional religions are very beautiful and very fluid and have a lot of flow, But there are some toxic and narcissistic and backbiting people in these religions as well that you got to look out for. So don't let anybody pressure you into being initiated, especially if the Orishas have not ordained or called for you to be initiated. Don't let anybody bully you or make you feel like you have to get these large mass ceremonies that are very expensive. Don't let people bully you into getting these things, because if the Orishas have not called it or said it, you don't need to get it done. And plus, a lot of people need to understand that the Orishas will still love you and still honor you, even if you're not initiated, and even if you're not, crowned, or even if you're not in a Baba or Iya, or even a Santero or a Santera, which is also a priest or priestess. The Orishas will still love you, because I myself, I'm not even a fully initiated priestess in Santeria just yet, and the Orishas are still working for me. They still speak to me. They still give me ideas and different methods and different, ways of thinking and guidance and whatnot. And I'm not fully initiated. So if they're doing that for me, they'll do that for y'all too. And the Orishas are very understanding. Because some people even get bullied and kind of pressed for money in a lot of these traditions. And I've even had to break myself from being so financially invested in spirituality, because the Orishas know that we got life to live, we got bills to pay, and we got things to do. And if the Orishas call for you to be initiated in 2023, it's nothing wrong in you spending time trying to make the money and get the money and earn the money and being ready in 2020, 30, or 2025 for initiation. They'll understand, because when the Orishas have called for you to be something, that truth and that word is going to stand true until the test of time. It's not going to change. If that's what they've said and that's what they've called for you to do, then that's what you're supposed to be doing. So if you don't have the money at the time that it's been called for you to have that, they'll understand that you got bills to pay. You might need to get a second or third job, or come up with some money somehow to get it, if that's important enough for you to have that. So I hope you guys, got a lot of knowledge out of this. I hope you guys got a lot of information out of this that you're interested in. And that was good. And if you guys have any questions or have any questions or inquiries about the Lucumi or Santeria tradition, feel free to leave a comment. But also feel free to leave positive comments, because I'm not taking no mess, and I'm not taking nobody spiritually bullying me or harassing me on my page, because I'm gonna be honest and I'm not gonna go on a rant. Some of y'all can be very pessimistic and very negative when it comes to this stuff. Just because somebody is not initiated and they happen to know more or just as much as a person that's initiated does not make them wrong. A lot of y'all like to bully people into being quiet and not speaking, because y'all feel like if people not initiated or crowned, they shouldn't be talking. No. If the Orishas want you to speak and the Orishas want you to tell it like it is, then you need to tell it. Because by me preaching and speaking about the Orishas, that's why my following has grown, and my money has even grown from me talking about them. And I'm not initiated. So if they're blessing me for talking about them, then whatever you saying about me not being initiated or whatever has no value when it comes to me talking about them. Because if they blessing me for talking and I'm not initiated, then I'm doing something right. Another thing I want to say is a lot of y'all need to stop coming under people's pages correcting people about how to say the Orisha's names and stuff like that. I had somebody come under my page not too long ago saying that I said Yemaya incorrectly. Yemaya, Yemoja, Yemaya. I mean, as long as I'm saying Yemaya, Yemoja, or Yemaya, I'm still saying her name correctly. Some of y'all feel as though if we don't say the accent correctly or say the right pitch or tone, and a lot of y'all are being pained in the butts about that, because what I've noticed, especially in the Latin community, sometimes when it comes to non Latin people speaking Spanish and knowing about Spanish culture and religion, y'all really like to be nitpickers or really pain in the asses about Spanish pronunciation and even Yoruban pronunciation, when a lot of y'all can't even speak good Spanish or perfect Spanish or even perfect Yoruban. So if you can't speak it with clarity, then why are you dogging me out and getting on me about pronouncing stuff? Now, I will say I have respect for the culture and the religion and the language. So I do know how to speak Spanish properly and Yoruba, and Yoruba properly. But if I don't say it correctly, then I will say it correctly. But a lot of y'all need to acknowledge the fact when someone is speaking it correctly and give them praise where it's due, and to stop trying to be funny acting when you know somebody done said a Spanish term or a Yoruban term correctly, but you just don't want to give somebody black props for speaking Spanish or speaking Yoruban. Don't do that, because a lot of y'all be trying it sometimes in these comments and in these little chats and stuff that I've done over time online, coming at me and correcting me about stuff when you know good and damn well I said it correctly. So I hope you guys enjoyed my live. I hope you guys enjoy my channel. Please leave positive comments. Don't forget to like, love, and share, and have a good night.